I speak softly to the dawn, because it is the only witness that understands how quietly my heart has learned to burn, how a flame can glow with a discipline that seems serene from afar, yet feels like a small fierce revolution within. I imagine you standing beside me on a balcony, where the air carries both the seriousness of inherited duty and the brightness of our youth. And somehow your presence folds those two worlds together until they feel like one harmonious vow. I do not always know how to express this joining, this unexpected gentleness, but I sense it in the way your name unwinds in my thoughts like silk, guiding me toward something steadier than certainty. You are the calm pulse beneath my composure, the echo that steadies a young voice, learning to speak for more than herself, yet finding comfort in speaking softly for you alone. If I walk with grace, it is because your memory steadies my steps. If I lift my gaze toward the horizon, it is because love has taught me that strength can be tender and tenderness unbreakable. There are days when the world feels like a tapestry woven with responsibilities, each thread demanding its place, each pattern asking me to understand my role before I have fully understood myself. Yet even then, even in the quiet corridors, where decorum feels like stone beneath my feet, thoughts of you move through me like a warm current beneath winter waters. I have learned to hide my warmth. It is part of the life I was born into. But nothing in my upbringing prepared me for affection's quiet insistence, its refusal to remain behind the gates of protocol. You have told me that to love is not to abandon my path, but to walk it with a steadier heart. When I remember your laughter, gentle, unforced, I feel moments loosen their grip as though life itself pauses to give me room to breathe. Perhaps this is what love truly is. Not a declaration shouted from balconies, but a truth that stands quietly beside me, reminding me that even within the strictest boundaries, the heart still finds room to expand. I have always admired the sky for its confidence, the way it stretches over kingdoms without asking permission, holding storms and sunlight with equal patience. When I think of you, I feel a similar vastness within me, an expanse I never knew I possessed, until your presence drew it open like curtains parting to reveal a hidden hall. There is a bravery in loving someone quietly, in treasuring a connection that belongs not to ceremony, but to the secret gardens of the soul. You make me believe that stillness can be powerful, that closeness can exist without spectacle, that two people can build an empire of understanding from nothing more than exchanged glances and unspoken truths. When I feel uncertain, your imagined hand on mine becomes a promise that I am not alone in navigating the intersections of identity, duty, and desire. You are not my escape. You are my anchor, the one who steadies me when the winds of expectation howl too loudly. With you, I feel not confined but expanded, not pressured but uplifted, as though love itself has learned to speak in my cadence. Sometimes I wonder how your presence can feel both like a whisper and a triumph, soft enough to calm me, strong enough to move me. There is a kind of elegance in the way your influence enters my life, not as a storm announcing itself, but as a sunrise that reveals its brilliance only to those who stand early enough to witness it. Loving you has taught me that the grandest gestures often live in small things. The kindness in your eyes when you listen, the way you turn fully towards someone who speaks, the sincerity with which you hold silence. These characteristics do not shine with the extravagance of jewels or pageantry, yet they illuminate something deeper than any ceremonial display. When I reflect on you, I feel my own aspirations aligning, as though you remind me that the true measure of leadership, of legacy, lies not in the weight of crowns, but in the weightlessness of empathy. If I carry myself with greater intention, it is because your memory reminds me that gentleness is a force capable of shaping futures. The pages of my days are often inked with duties, meetings, studies, responsibilities, the ever-present awareness of eyes that watch and wonder and measure. Yet between those lines, in the quiet margins no one else sees, you exist like a pressed flower, delicate, preserved, fragrant with memory. I go about my life with the composed grace expected of me, but it is the thought of you that softens the edges of my resolve. You are the reminder that beneath titles and expectations, I am still a young woman learning to love, to hope, to dream. When I imagine your voice speaking my name, with no formalities, no audience, no ceremonial tone, something inside me warms with a sense of authenticity that feels rare in my world. Perhaps what draws me to you is not only affection, but the freedom I feel in your imagined presence. A freedom that does not ask me to shed responsibility, but simply to be myself within it. Loving you feels like unlocking a part of me that has always waited patiently for permission to breathe. I have often wondered if love is meant to be a thunderclap, loud enough to shake the foundations of one's life. But with you, love arrives as a lantern that brightens gradually, illuminating the darker corners of my fears with its gentle glow. There is nothing tumultuous about the way I feel. Instead, it is steady, deliberate, like the ceremonial steps I have practiced since childhood. Yet, unlike rituals, this emotion is not learned. It grows naturally, like ivy, climbing ancient stone. You help me understand that affection can be deliberate without being distant, passionate without being unruly. When I think of you standing quietly beside me, I sense a future balance between responsibility and tenderness. A future where love becomes not a disruption, but a companion. If I have grown braver in speaking from the heart, it is because your presence, real or remembered, makes courage feel like something attainable. You do not demand grand declarations. You inspire them simply by existing with a kind of sincerity that feels both intimate and incandescent. There are moments when the world feels unbearably loud, when voices, duties, and expectations rise, like waves threatening to pull me under. Yet in those moments, the memory of you becomes a shoreline, steady and unwavering. I imagine your calm, the patient steadiness in your gaze, and suddenly the turbulence eases. That is the quiet power you hold, not the force to silence storms, but the gift of making them seem navigable. You speak without raising your voice, you guide without insisting. In a life where so much is scripted, rehearsed, perfected, your influence feels beautifully unscripted, like discovering a melody that was always meant to accompany my steps. I have learned that love is not the absence of chaos, but the presence of someone who helps you find your balance within it. Thus, with you, I feel seen, not as an emblem or an heir, but as a person. Someone capable of softness, laughter, and longing. When I look toward the future, I hope it holds more moments, shaped by that quiet steadiness we share. The world often teaches young hearts to guard themselves, to remain cautious behind walls of propriety and expectation. Yet you inspire me to believe that vulnerability is not a flaw, but a form of strength. In your imagined presence, I am allowed to shed the layers of decorum long enough to let my true self breathe. You make honesty feel safe, like stepping into a room warmed by afternoon sunlight rather than harsh scrutiny.